Hey, see, it was working yesterday and it's not today, and that's a little disappointing. Now.
The mic's not working?
No, this isn't working.
Oh, well, that's okay, because I'm solo today, because all of my guests flaked out. And or I misscheduled everybody
Oh,
today.
and we're leaving too.
No.
So good luck, MJ.
we're flaking out too, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, if you want to start, my heart palpitations and like a heart attack,
No, I think it'd
issue now.
be good for the soul.
No, it would not be good for the soul. So, as I said, but we're going to go into a pretty deep topic, and I need both of you to participate in this. So, one of my really... I love and hate this part of my job, because I love being able to take care of people, but sometimes I hate asking the really hard questions. And a lot of what I do is asking the hard questions that nobody else will talk about or ask or think that it's a normal discussion to have. Good morning, it's McKinnon Hansen with Wired Wednesday. Thank you for joining us. I am your local Farm Bureau financial agent.
You're not going to ask us the hard questions, are you?
I am going to ask you the hard questions.
No, I refuse.
Well, so
If Donald Trump can do it, I can do it.
Yes, exactly. When are you running for president, by the way?
Never.
No, stop. You would be such a great president.
Yeah, and the fact that I could really have the whole country mad at one person.
Well, I mean...
Well, we'd be united.
At least
Yeah,
we're united.
I can bring the country
Bring
together.
the country together.
Exactly. I mean, and really, what's fair in love and war, right? Like, you need to do those things and just make a united front, really. And it's very intriguing how divided we are, or what is happening through the different things going on. I had a colleague the other day said, if you want to control a nation, control their food. And that goes back to something that I'm really passionate about, which is agriculture, right? And making sure that we are self-sustaining and doing all the good things here in Iron County. So with all of that, one of my primary job functions is to make sure that people are prepared for the worst day and the best day of what's going on in their life. And some would call it life insurance, others call it succession planning. There's a variety of different labels you can put on this. And one thing that Farm Bureau does very well is we have a variety of products with life insurance and succession planning and annuities that we can find a product that fits most people's budgets and or requirements and necessities. Business owners is a big thing. Making sure partners in business, whether it's just 2 people in business or whether it's 5 or 6 or even up to like 15, people have adequate life insurance on each other to make sure that the business survives in the different things. So we're going to go through some hard questions. Are you guys ready?
You bet.
I'm going to refuse to answer, but sure, I'm ready to. I'm ready to deny.
There's a guide that I have, and it's called a Journal of Wishes and Records. And I did it the other day, and I was so pleased with how much detail they actually go into of making sure that this is the one document you need to make sure your family knows where it's at. I'm just gonna go through a few of the pages, right? So it asks my full name, my favorites, my color or season, my childhood memory, a memory of my children or grandchildren, right? My favorite vacation, who has inspired or influenced the way that I live my life, right? And it goes through all these different things. And if you're an organ donor, did you know the nuances of organ donation?
I can't say I
don't know the nuances.
So if you are an organ donor, then your family bears the burden of the cost of harvesting those organs to make sure that they are appropriate for the next person. So if you are an organ donor, look into the details of that, because it may put some people in a different type of position than they were otherwise prepared for.
So my thing has a little heart and says donor Y.
So you are a donor.
How do I change that?
The local state authority that requires that on your driver's license.
Maybe I'll just mark it out with it.
You could. It also asks for your birth date, the location of your birth certificate, if you have a minister or religious advisor.
Yeah, we all have. I think a lot of us have religious advisors.
Theoretically, the marriage, any divorces or separations,
So
has
far,
someone.
no.
This is what's really impactful to me, and you guys are in a different season of life, so it may be less impactful.
That's a nice way of saying that we're old.
Well, no, this question may or may not apply. It says, have you selected someone to be a guardian for your minor children? So in this case, this book is being used as a guide for if I didn't come home tonight, right?
Okay.
If I have selected somebody to be a guardian over my minor children, or if my husband and I didn't come home, what happens to them, right? And I want everybody listening to the show to be paying attention to these questions, because it's a cue for you to either get it figured out or make sure you have it figured out.
You know, it's funny. We talked. Tyler Milling comes in. In fact, it was in this week, but it was a recorded show, and we talk about succession planning and things of that. But I wonder how often we have the discussion with the hard questions. Like, for example, and not that this has happened, but I've thought about, so what if I decided to start a business with my siblings?
There's a lot of different levels to that.
And it's with your siblings,
Uh-huh.
and you've known these people pretty much your entire life, and you know each other, but still, I would want to sit down and have as detailed a discussion about what's expected of this and that and this and that, and who's responsible for this and that, and I would want everything in writing, even with my siblings.
Well, and I think that's a very well-trusted way to do business, because one thing that I have that has changed me for the rest of my life is people's interactions with grief. Grief and greed and all of those different levels of going through the grief process, right? Anger, sorrow, all of those things. It's incredible how they change people at the core. Because you can go into business with your siblings. I have 3 brothers, and I love them all dearly at different levels. And so if I went into business with them, what happens to my portion of the business? Does my husband then inherit my portion of the business?
See, these are questions that need to be worked
And
out.
or are they licensed? So like, let's say I start, I don't know, what do you have to be licensed in? Insurance.
Insurance,
Okay.
yeah.
So if my portion of the business goes to my husband, does he then have to become licensed to hold that position? The state law would say yes, because it's an insurance company, right? You have to be licensed. However, through succession planning or through different life insurance, so let's say my 4 siblings, or the 4 of us, have $1 million on each of us. The $1 million for me goes to my husband as a part of buying out his partnership, and now it just becomes
The
3.
The 3, right? Okay.
And then as slow as that becomes, it either goes to a spouse that's licensed, or it just buys off the spouse, right? And you can set up different business plans just like that. You can do it for different partnerships. Let's say I own a mechanic shop, right? If I'm the front
First of all,
end.
you get Leon mad at you for competing with him, but okay.
No. Well, Leon, I won't offer alignment services per se.
Oh, okay, I got you.
But let's say I own a mechanic shop, right? But I do all the front end office work, and my partner does all the actual mechanicking work,
Right.
My position is very different than his, but I couldn't inherit his because I'm not qualified, right? Versus he couldn't inherit mine because he's not qualified. So you have to have enough money to bring in a person of such knowledge to make sure that the business, and you can set up key man, it's called a key person policy.
Yeah, I've heard of that. In fact, at one point working for an older company that used to own the radio station, not me, but there was a person that was actually insured as the key man.
Right.
That would basically ensure that the station would continue to operate.
Right, at that level.
Had he passed away.
Right. So some other questions in here is, have you made arrangements for the disposition of your personal belongings? So going through and does your jewelry or do your firearms or does your artwork, we live in a very diverse area where people collect a lot of different things. I collect tractors. Have I put in the different things necessary for making sure that they get distributed appropriately between my posterity?
That must be quite the collection.
Oh no, I only have 3 so far.
Where do you put them?
In a shop.
Okay.
I drive them in the parades. Have you never seen me in the parade?
I probably have.
Yeah, I have two. Well, we just got the Arles Chombers, which I have to remember how to drive. I haven't driven it in like 10 years. But we have two John Deere a 38 and a 36 Model A John Deere tractors. So they're almost 100 years old, and they are in fine-tuned working condition thanks to a local mechanic that loves antique tractors just as much as I do.
Okay.
So, there's other questions such as like, where's your financial advisor or your accountant? There's, where do you bank? Do you have other accounts? Do you have this, that, and the other? All of this goes into probate unless otherwise dictated in a will or a trust.
Right.
And trust and succession planning attorneys want each spouse to have their own will and testament, like going through different things, and they want you to have a joint one. Because if something happened to both of you, then they use the joint one.
Right.
But if something happened to one or the other at the different time sets, then they want to make sure that they're going through those different options and things. It goes through making sure you have recorded where your retirement documents are, where your CDs are, tax returns, real estate deeds, annuities and policy statements, stocks and bonds, mutual funds. Those can all be the same thing, and they can be very different all at the same time, depending on how much you've accumulated or how much you've started through your different lifetime. And this goes through different, if you have any loans or debt, recording those through the different pages. In the last part of it, it goes through how you want to be remembered. Basically, you're writing your own obituary, which is a very powerful thing within itself because you get thinking about what you're actually leaving behind. And for me, for a person that still has children in the household, that picture looks a lot different than people who are recently empty nesters or people who have had children out of the house for 20 or 30 years. Those different things those different seasons of life look very different because if I didn't come home today, right, my family needs a larger sum of money to make sure that they carry on through their lifestyle. And I want them to be able to do that and to not be financially impacted because I don't want them to have to process anything more than the grief. Well, I mean, others would celebrate, but, the grief process through going through that process, right? Versus empty nesters, that doesn't necessarily mean people won't grieve you, but you no longer are responsible for other smaller persons or other younger people, and maybe you could be, maybe you have an adult child who needs, 24-hour care still, but you need those different things set up through all of the different levels of life. I have friends who have children who will need to be tendered through the remaining of their life. They will always have to have 24-hour care through those different things. They have specific life insurance policies set up to go to that person's care and things going through the intention of that. Because it's incredible, not necessarily saying that is an expensive portion of life, but that's more burdensome than people realize. Long-term care facilities, like if anybody is checked into these rates, then you can correct me, please.
Wow.
But you're $3,000 to $5,000 just in our area a month of long-term care facilities. That's like eating cognizant, all of those different things a month just in that service. That's not other living expenses and other different things going on. So going through those specific life insurance needs and or succession planning needs is crucial. It says, do you have a preferred funeral home? Do you have a prearranged or paid funeral plan? At what point do we actually need to pay for a funeral? Right now, costs are anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000, depending on how you want to be processed, the casket you want to be buried in, all of those different things, and it's not the size of the box.
It's funny. We've actually had this discussion because of what we faced a few years back, and we're old. We're actually kind of leaning towards cremation actually now.
And see, I want to be cremated and put in a coffee can up on the mountain.
I don't care where they put me. I mean, I guess if I had my choice, I'd say spread me over Alaska somewhere. But it's sobering though to have these different discussions, not just what we've been talking about, but it is sobering, but it is well spent time in having this discussion. What happens to your kids? What happens to it's funny because we actually just recently did a trust for our property,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really our biggest asset, really, as it stands. But we have not done, and maybe we should sit down and say, all right, who gets. Now, frankly, I think our kids are going to end up throwing most of our stuff away, and that's okay. That's fine.
Right.
But they might want some of it.
Well, and going through that, because it's selfish not to have a plan put together. Because that, again, back to me and my 3 brothers, right? Everything's supposedly divided into 25%, right? But if one brother wants this and another brother wants that too, they either have to fight it out, they have to fight it out, or they have to take it to court.
Right.
Right? And then the court's going to be like, why are you wasting my time? This is a small trinket. It's, $100 worth of something.
Right.
But not having a plan is selfish of us. Granted, I have a custody agreement. I don't have a will and testament because I haven't sat down to do that. But this booklet, even if nobody does business with me, right? I want them to stop and pick this up because it is a simple, I don't know, maybe 10 pages. And a lot of it's filler, okay? Don't be intimidated. And it's really like a half sheet kind of a thing. So you filling it out makes you get thinking, right? So as I'm going through this, I'm like, wait, I have to have instructions regarding services and a budget for final expenses, right? And then do you have a preference regarding memorial gifts? Do I want people to buy trees? Do I care what they do? Do I want to
In lieu of flowers, do this.
right?
Yeah.
In lieu of flowers or the different things. And then, what are your wishes regarding disposal of your remains? Well, clearly we just discussed that, right? I want to be buried in a can. And do I have a cemetery plot? Where do I have a cemetery plot?
And it's funny because I don't think we 100% decided, and we actually went and saw the Sexton. And found out about plots here in Cedar City.
Right, and how expensive are plots?
About $800.
Right now.
Yeah.
Today. They could go up. We're getting less and less cemetery space.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're going to have to build a new cemetery eventually because the one we have is kind of getting full.
I want a high-rise cemetery.
I think that's still weird. Going down to Louisiana, that makes sense, right? The water table is so inverted there, right?
Okay.
And I wouldn't want them swimming.
No, I wouldn't want that either. I wouldn't want that either.
And it goes into what my favorite flowers are and different things, or lists of those you owe money, including contract information, location of documents, dates and loan amounts, interest and repayment schedules, who your Farm Bureau financial services agent is.
Oh, I know the answer to that one.
Oh, yes.
It's McKinnon Hansen.
Thank you so much, Tim. And it goes through all of the different things. So I really encourage people, to really have a strong conversation with your spouse, your significant other, even if you're only 18 years old, having some type of plan and military members have to write their obituary and they have to write a will and testament and they have to give that to somebody, over the course of their either enlistment and or deployment. They have to have those documents, even if it's just a handwritten letter. You have to have some type of direction for people completed.
Do you remember the movie, The Lions?
Lion King?
No. It was Michael McCain and Robert Duvall were in it. It was something about lions.
No idea.
Anyway, it's about these 2 older guys, and they.
Oh, Secondhand Lions.
Secondhand Lions.
Thank you,
so
Stacey.
much.
I was on the
And I remember the will they wrote in that movie was the kid gets it all.
Right. As simple as that. It just you need some type of direction, some type of thing for people to be able to have direction, because if anything, grief does the unexpected of freezing you, right? I don't know what to do because I don't have direction. Give somebody some type of direction with your will and estate planning, your life insurance. I can help you with that. I can help you even just review current policies. I have people bring me policies all the time of, is this a good fit for me? And I'm like, I don't know. How long ago did you change it? Has your lifestyle changed?
See, I could write out a will right now that says Chris gets it all. and and other than the Optimon, I don't think he'd be real happy about that. But I think he does. He does want that. I think.
Well, thank
Should I
you.
put that in my will?
Yeah.
Ladies, get my Optimon.
Well, I appreciate you guys going through the hard questions this morning.
Notice we
Again,
didn't give any answers.
well, no, but we talked about it and we brought it to light. So it's in people's brains and they're trying to think about it. I encourage everybody to take action on those thoughts because if anything, we want to be able to remember you from this community, from the surrounding communities, with the best memories that we have of you. Thank you so much for joining us for Wired Wednesday. This is your local Farm Bureau financial agent, McKinnon Hansen.
And if you want this book that she's got, it's free, but you gotta
Yes.
give her a phone call.
Yes, 435-592-2021, or stop by our office and just ask for the Journal of Wishes and Records.
Okay,
We're-
and for those of you that don't write at warp speed, that's 592
2021. Thank you so much for joining us for Wired Wednesday. I appreciate your time.
All right, thanks, MJ.